Where the hell is it? Tails told me that there was another Ark of the Cosmos around here somewhere, and I just can't seem to find it anywhere. I've been hiking around these ruins for the past 3 days, and I just can't seem to find it. I'm starting to think he's just one little lying son of a... Wait a minute. I think I found it. Guys, finally found it after 3 days. I just have to jump off this... How the hell did I survive a fall like that? I'm gonna feel that in the morning. Ooh. Whew. Here it is, guys. After all this time, I finally got the Ark of the Cosmos, which means I can harness its power to have the ability to finally review Sonic Riders Zero Gravity. Now, how do I work this thing?
You know, I actually forgot this game ever came out back in 2008, and that was probably because I was still riding off the high of finally getting Sonic Riders for the GameCube, and because everyone, and I mean everyone's attention was all on Super Smash Bros. Brawl. So yeah, it was slightly overshadowed.
Just slightly.
It probably also didn't help that it wasn't as hype as the first one since there were no new characters, unless you count the robots, and it only had one new gameplay mechanic. Anyway, let's get into the story. This game's story is a little neater since it doesn't revolve around a tournament, so again, story-wise, I already like it a bit more than the original Sonic Riders. But basically, this story revolves around these things that are called gravity bracelets, a special object that lets its user control the gravity around them. We find out that they are tied to Babylon Garden, which used them as a power source to move its whole island over to this planet.
Yes, the whole island was practically a ship that propelled through space, which means that the Babylonians are in fact aliens.
But to summarize the story, Jet and his crew go over to an ancient area called the Gigan Rocks to discover a Babylon relic. I don't remember if we get shown how they figure out how to get this or not, but I'm assuming Jet was rummaging through some of his father's old books or something. Anyway, with one of these gravity bracelets, or Ark of the Cosmos, as Jet loves to say in this game, they go and set off to obtain all 5 of them, which will lead them to finding Sonic and Company running away from tons of Mediotech robots because Tails and Amy happen to come across a bracelet as well. By the way, there is a company called Mediotech in this game that makes very intelligent robots that end up going amok when these bracelets crash into the world. Once Sonic and Company run away from these robots multiple times, they decide to go to the main factory to see why these robots want to get these meteorites so much. They find Eggman in the captain's chair and assume that it is his fault that the robots are going crazy. Eggman says he's the owner of Mediotech and is trying to fix his robots because he doesn't even know why they're going nuts over these bracelets. But obviously he is lying and is trying to find the bracelets to harness their power to make Eggman land once again. Well, the Babylon rogues and Sonic put a stop to him in the nick of time, but Tails finds out why the ancient rogues sealed away their power right when one extra crazy rogue robot steals all the bracelets and books it to Babylon Garden. He's going to destroy the world with a black hole. Everyone except Eggman, who bails.
The world is doomed!
Won't have that, so they lead off to stop this robot from using this horrible power. When they beat him, they converse again before splitting off to do who knows what. But now there's a small extra scene of Sonic and Company talking about the Babylon Island right before Jet ruins the conversation and challenges Sonic to a race in a tube. In my opinion, the story is a little more interesting compared to the first game, but only because I like those in-between cutscenes and animations. They just seem a lot more well animated compared to the first game. The ending part is kind of shoehorned in because the robot was somehow destroyed halfway through the game, but then comes out of nowhere going rogue just to have an end boss. It's really unnecessary and dumb since you don't even get to see it transform. It's just, boom, giant robots, time to save the world. But in defense of this bullshit reason to fight it, it is a cooler spectacle to fight it compared to the genie from the first game, since he controls when you blast and there's like a stress/tension of making sure you are prepared to hit him when you can at the right time. Gameplay. Now, this game is a little more streamlined compared to the first Sonic Riders, but in my opinion, it gets rid of the flexibility and the speed or tempo of the original concept. The only neat thing about the controls is there are multiple options thanks to the Wii. You can simulate a hoverboard by holding it like a remote and tilting it like a skateboard. You can hold it sideways like a wheel, or use the GameCube controller. What do I prefer to use? Well, I like the GameCube controller. This game trades a lot of speed options for moments of gravity-based gimmicks, which in my opinion make the game way more lethargic compared to the first game. Let's start with your board. It becomes a little more and a little less dynamic for these reasons. While you can no longer boost on command, you can gear change in the middle of a race to dynamically add or stack abilities while you race. You gain the ability to do this by collecting enough rings throughout the match, which makes them practically essential to staying in first place. There are tons and tons of abilities to choose from, in which I won't even want to try to explain it because it can be easy to misinterpret what some of these abilities mean, and I can say that some of these abilities stack on each other or get overwritten during a race. It's just really, really complicated. Though, my two examples are your standard gear, which usually have like a small speed boost for the first level of gear change, and then it enables your type gear in level 2, and then level 3 would expand your GP gauge on level 3. While something, let's say, Optipotence, or however you pronounce it, lets you switch to the speed type, then it lets you switch to the fly type, but you remove the speed type or the power type. It's really stupid and weird, but a lot of different boards in the game do that. But speaking of abilities, they work quite differently in this game, as you heard in the previous paragraph a few seconds ago. Instead of characters having a natural ability assigned to them, they get their ability from the gear they use, which different types, sometimes enabling them from the start of the race. So for example, all skates in the game give you the ability to grind. All bikes in the game give you the ability of the power type, and all hovercrafts allow you to use the fly gates. But most other times, the board will determine your gear. You would have to get the rings and level up to use that gear and time it just right so you can use them and take advantage of them in the race. We no longer run on air, but gravity points instead, so you don't find yourself running on the track when you run out of points, but instead just being unable to boost from gravity-based moments, which I will explain later. How do you get gravity points? Do you manipulate the time-space continuum or some shit to pull gravity from one thing to use it to propel you forward? Nah, that'd be too cool. Instead, yep, we do tricks! Just like in the first game, but again, it's much more streamlined compared to it, so instead of holding down the jump button, charging your jump, you just have to time it at the end of the ramp to make sure you get the highest distance, the highest jump, and the best trick. Your trick you don't even control anymore. It's actually predetermined when you go off the ramp on how well it is. And it's really tricky to tell you which ones are the best, so you just kind of have to play and figure it out as you go along. But moving back to those gravity-based mechanics, there are two major moves you can utilize in a race: Unleashing Gravity and Gravity Turn. Each track usually has specifically designed points in a track to force you to use these, like having impossible 90-degree turns, making it so you have to use the gravity turn, or force you to use the gravity boost because everybody else in that track goes down this straight pathway where you can bounce off these objects during the boost to increase your speed. And if you don't do that, you'd just be left behind in last place.
So what do I think of the gameplay? It's okay. The gravity-based mechanics sound really cool on paper, but in practice, it's kind of just another way to slow the game down. But I do like the gravity-based mechanics for one reason, which I will explain in a moment.
Sound. The sound in this game is one of the coolest ways that I've seen it tied to gameplay that I've ever seen, and to see whether that is good or bad is up to you. But other than the fact that the soundtrack completely rocks and fits each stage extremely well, in the single-player modes, the music will pause and shift into another phase of the track every time you use the gravity boost, which can feel frickin' exhilarating if you do it on the right phrase of the song.
Here we go! Unleash gravity!
Now, going back really fast, I completely forgot to mention in my first Sonic Riders review that I didn't review the music at all, so I'll put a fast slapped on version here. Let me just tell you, it is dope. It is one of the most played soundtracks that I play along with this game, especially Metal City. I don't know, something about the techno used in that game just flows so well with a futuristic theme, despite the fact that you only really visit one or two futuristic looking tracks in that whole game. So I just gotta tell you, it is good. It's like 8 out of 10. Oh my god, this soundtrack is awesome. Alright, I'm gonna list off all the game modes in this game. Story mode and challenge mode. Playing through the story chapters of Hero and Babylon in this mode, and once you beat them, they unlock multiple missions for each track in the menu as well. Free race. Select any track with any character with any gear, you know the spiel. Time attack. Using the Wii's Wi-Fi capability, you can post your times... never mind. Obviously, with Nintendo's Wi-Fi being shut off, this feature no longer works. But I did use it a few times back when it was up, and it was plagued with tons of cheaters boosting their way to the top, completing laps in 0.0001 seconds. But you can still save your ghosts, and it is a neat way to test your ability on a track alone and in peace. Grand Prix. Race the story mode tracks for the grand prize. You can unlock 80s and 90s Boulevard as well if you win each Grand Prix. Survival. Let me just say, overall, if you have friends to play with, just don't touch these mini games. Survival Relay. Use 2 players to share a race pretty much. It's where you do 1 lap and then you pass the invisible baton to the second player and let them do their lap, and you have to compete against computers or 2 other players to win. Interesting concept, basic execution, don't really recommend it. Survival Ball. This is some weird game that uses gravity shift to punch your ball into goals for points within a time limit. It sounded kind of fun, but with the gravity controls, it's just not very fun at all. I mean, when someone has control of the ball, you kind of can't really do anything other than wait for them to finish their turn at shooting for a goal, and you just have to make sure you throw the arc at the right spot, and the higher points are further away, so it's just a big waiting game. Survival Battle. Kind of like the first game, but you use your gravity attack to attack people with items you pick up on the field. A little more hectic and interactive compared to the first one, but still not really, just not fun at all. The shop. Well, this is where you can buy extreme gear, obviously, but this gives me a chance to say, I personally do not like the board's design in this game. All I have to say is, do you like the gear in the first game? Well, how about we bubblify it all for ya? Literally every single gear in this game has been like rounded or bubbled up to look rounder and thicker, and I have no idea why they let this happen, because it makes everything look 4 times as ugly, as in my opinion. It's just weird to see them drive on like literal 2 like plastic ball sacks. It's unappealing, and it doesn't look like a hoverboard. It looks like just a flying blarg or flying UFO of just something they're standing on. It's weird. I don't like it. Unlockables. Now, it's very similar or downright the same to the first Sonic Riders. You just have to buy all the boards. The mission modes, you just have to get them all at maxed rank for the best opportunity to unlock all the extra bonus characters and content. You beat the Grand Prix to unlock the new stages, all that easy kind of stuff. It's just a big time sink, but the only thing I have to say that's a little bit better than the first game is they added different variants of the gambler board that lets you grind for rings much, much quicker. But other than I have to say about that is the characters are kind of neat. Off the top of my head, I don't have this in my script. Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg is in there. That was a cool reason to unlock the characters when I bought this game. The main reason why I bought this game was to get Silver the Hedgehog, because I didn't own Sonic 06 at the time, and I thought this character was so cool. Me and my brother wanted to unlock him so bad, and we didn't know how, so we played through the game a whole bunch to try and figure it out. And Amigo from... Is it Amigo? Yeah. Amigo was an unlockable character. I don't know why they classify him as speed type, but I guess that's just to fulfill Billy Hatcher's power type, because he rolls everything over with the egg. And Silver is psychic. He's all flying and mysterious, so he's a flying type, so they just had to throw him in there. And then for the robots, they are a downgrade to the Mario and Luigi robots. That's what I like to call them from the first game, because they're just more generic looking. You can't really customize anything on them. You can't even select custom boards like you could with the old characters. And there's really no choice to touch them compared to other characters like Shadow, Cream, Amy, Rouge, Sonic, just the rest of the characters.
Overall, I think this game is a downgrade compared to the first one, despite having a killer and dynamic soundtrack and slightly better character roster, like Billy Hatcher, Blaze, Silver, etc. The story is a little bit more interesting, but it really shoehorns in the ending, and I don't like that. It really defeats the purpose of having a cool story to begin with. And the game is just so much slower compared to the first one. There are exhilarating moments of cool gravity-based mechanics, but it's a slog to get through the rest of the race when you're not doing that stuff. But before I go, I do want to mention one more thing. I am going to review another mod for this game, just like I did with Sonic Riders Tournament Edition, except this game is called Sonic Riders Regravified, and it actually tries to do its best to fix the slow mechanics that this game introduced and have it play a little more in line with the first game. Now, it is a work in progress, but I'm still going to do my best to review it in its current state anyway, because it is at least mildly interesting. So, I guess I'll see you guys next time on Sonic Riders Regravified. And before I leave, I will shoehorn a rating for this game. I will probably give it a 5.5 out of 10. Average, lame, cool music, good graphics for the Wii, good controllers, blah-de-blah-de-blah. That is it. Now, where the heck is my duct tape? I mean, Ark of the Cosmos, because I'm gonna regravify out of here. And move on to the Kinect. Ah, my foot!